All right, welcome back to Module 2, continuing on our tips and tricks. We're going to talk about draw lengths. Now, from my information I've gathered from talking with everyone, draw length, one of the common misconceptions is that the draw length changes with each bow, and it doesn't. Your draw length is your draw length. That's the amount of length that you require to be able to fully draw the arrow. So when you determine your draw length, there's actually two ways you can go about it. You can do either where you hold an arrow against the chest of your plate right here, the middle bone. You hold out your arms and you cup it against the arrow. Now where your tip of your finger ends on that arrow, that's supposed to be your draw length. So from the tip of the arrow here to here on mine is 27 inches. So I have a 27-inch long draw length. Now, draw lengths, the reason they're important, not so much with stuff like long bows and survival bows, stuff like that. Those bows can get away with a lot of different kinds of people with a lot of different draw lengths using them. Now, the difference with that is if someone uses a long bow that's only used 25 draw length, and then I come along with a 30-inch draw length, most likely, by me having a larger draw length on that same bow, I'm going to get more power behind my arrow than the other person, just for the fact that I can pull the string back farther than he can. Now, when you get to stuff like compound bows, you're really going to need to pay attention to your draw length because many compound bows are designed for a specific draw length in mind. Because when they do those pulley systems for the let-off occurs at a certain point when the string has been drawn to a certain point. So if you have a 27-inch draw length and you go and buy a used compound bow that has a 24-inch draw length, that means that the let-off is going to occur at 24 inches instead of 27 inches like you want it to. And that's going to mess up your archery stances, and it's going to lead into a lot of other issues that you're going to have with targeting and power and everything else. And vice versa, if you have a 27-inch draw length and you're trying to get to a bow that has, say, a 32-inch draw length, well, if I can't draw past 27 and I need to get that bowstring on a compound bow to 32, I'm never going to have that let-off advantage. So all the advantages of the compound bow that you have are gone because that let-off is never going to come because you can never pull back far enough. So all that power is still being stored in the string. It's going to fatigue you and everything else because you're simply humanly not possible to pull it back that far. So it's really important you know your draw length when creating any kind of bow or buying any kind of bow from the store. If you go to an archery store, they'll be more than happy to usually measure out your draw length and find out what kind of bow works best for you. All right, so you can tell now why knowing your draw length is so important. Because you don't want to be left high and dry with a bow that it has all these great features, but you can't use because you don't have the right draw length. So one of the last kind of tips I want to cover is part of your archery stance, just as much as it is about holding the bow. What you need to make sure you do is when you are drawing out the bow, that you bring the string to the corner of your mouth, and you need to make sure you have your elbow up high. Now, having the elbow up high, unlike when you're shooting rifles and you want to make sure everything's tucked in so you're nice, you want to have that elbow tucked out because what that allows it to do is the muscles in your back and your shoulders align up and allow for you to be able to pull the most pounds of pressure out of your bow as possible. So if you're kind of like your arms down here and you're just going like this, you're not going to have the ability to pull back on that 80-pound drawstring that you want. Now, when you were back in the medieval ages and the English were using longbows, some of their longbows were actually 150 pounds. And these guys were literally just do workouts where they did nothing but just draw their bow all day to build up that muscles in their back and their shoulders. And the way they would really do that is they would have trainers that would sit there, and they still do this even today in the modern Olympics. You'll see modern archery athletics in the Olympics when they're training, they'll have their shirt off and their trainer is watching their muscles and their back and their shoulder blades as they draw to make sure that they're having the proper stance and everything is lining up so they get the most power and most draw out of their bow. Now also with having proper stance so you have the most power, it also has to do with safety. You don't want to draw in weird stances that may put strain on your muscles. You can tear muscles, tear ligaments, all kinds of things from not paying attention to how you're holding your bow. You can also injure yourself by overdrawing it. If you draw too far, you can put too much strain on the limbs and then that can explode it. So making sure that you're having a good stance, you're keeping your elbow high and all your muscles lined up for when you draw, making sure your draw length so that way you're not overdrawing. That's all important part of your kind of archery stance, so that way you can have not only good aim, but be able to shoot long term without having fatigue, stuff that's going to just really make you not be on target as you go. Each time you shoot, you're going to get a little bit more fatigued, you're going to be a little less accurate.